Good afternoon. I wasn't here in the morning, that's to my loss, but I'm told it was very good speakers and lots of complexities. And in a sense, what I've been asked to do, which is impossible, is the social and health ramifications. Well, this is not an easy task. Why? Because the word austerity was used a little bit earlier by Jenny, and most of these things are basically UK issues. To actually want to blame them somehow on our European neighbours and allies is missing points. The issue is of most of the issues of the NHS, social services spending and so on, is British policy. Much of what I'm going to say, though, is to talk about our interconnectedness with Europe. And as we've just heard, the interconnectedness is major, looking at food. And therefore, the social and health implications of Brexit are significant, but they're largely unknown. And I think it's the uncertainties which almost rendered me impossible to say something about it because of the level of uncertainty. So what I'm going to say is really address that uncertainty, but in a wider context, if you like, philosophically, as Eric ended up with, about what our membership of the European Union is actually about. And in any case, there's an excellent book, well, some people say it's an excellent book, someone told me it was unreadable, called Ecological Public Health, where saying that health is determined by the general societal shaping conditions, from the economy to culture. It's not just about thinking, what's the relationship for the NHS, for example, and all the arguments about TTIP and all those things. So it is about the context of society more broadly, filtering into our expectations and patterns on health, not just the NHS. So the simple facts you already know. The single market is about 4 freedoms. It's a vast array of legislation. As we've seen, food is only one area, environment is another, and so it goes. Legal affairs. These range from product standards for goods, consumer protection, health and safety legislation, and the process is not even complete. It's mostly on what some things, services, very underdeveloped. But why are we even discussing Brexit? What's the animus behind it all? Well, the opponents of EU members say withdrawal will reduce regulation, and we've had some of that from Eric. Return to democratic control by whom? Controlled migration, and result in economic improvement because we'll be facing the world rather than simply these moribund economies of Europe. And here's the argument from Patrick Minford, who was one of the acolytes to Mrs. Thatcher years ago and, as an economic advisor. Basically, more jobs are created if you're in a more competitive economy, producing things that you're better at. Well, that's a central issue, and we'll just tackle that in a moment. But actually, I think it's more about this issue, about Britain dealing with its own past and thinking what the future is. And actually, I think the most telling point that's ever been made about Britain, about the UK, was by Dean Acheson in 1962. He was the retiring Secretary of State. We would call him, you know, that's foreign policy. And about the illusions that the British have towards either the US or the world. One illusion is that we're still operating with a Commonwealth, which means something, or that we have a special relationship with the States. Both these roles, he said, are played out, and a role in Europe is our future. Now, we're weak, and it's interesting, this thing about conduct policy as weak as its military power, and that's been recently exposed in the discussions about Syria. But actually, some of the nub of the debate is certainly economic, and the economy has a relationship to health and social welfare, clearly, and we've already seen that in the discussion about austerity. But of course, there's no agreement. There has been, until recently, no agreement with basically organizations on the, looking to the left, on the left there, on the right, if you may take my meaning, and organizations which are nowhere, which are statist ones, if you like, European Commission, business, the Department of Business, suggesting that estimates of net benefits to the UK are significant, almost a mirror image of each other. If you want the sources for this, it's all in that paper there, the House of Commons Library. But actually, we know that for the moment, and there's lots of arguments running through, and here is, in a sense, a version of a health and welfare argument, which is the way in which social class plays out in Britain, which is the issue of immigration. And it's the recent increase in EU immigration, if you'll see up there. And this is played through a mainly hostile to European press. The largest groups, which are on News International, which of course is an American-owned company. But in fact, if we look at the reality of it, these are the migration estimates to the present, from up to January the 14th, that actually the UK is somewhere in the middle of the range of foreign nationals as a percentage of total population. So what we have is an argument which is opinion-based and panic-based. It's a narrative which is set up, which never gives you the full picture. And hence, uncertainty is always present, but it's always presented in certain ways. So, you know, as someone with a social science background, I just look in horror at the mismatch between the discussion, the narrative occurred, and, you know, just a more reasoned approach to the information we have in front of them. But then I thought to myself, well, how do I deal with this, with the level of uncertainties? And there's a great, highly underrated philosopher, which people will know of, whose name is Donald Rumsfeld. And he speaks of it in the division of three, the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. So I don't know what the last one is, but I would add to that, of course, which is the known, the unknown knowns. And the chief unknown knowns, because this statement came from the fact that he was asking a question about weapons of mass destruction. So the unknown known was, in fact, that they didn't exist. And he was covering it up by making statements like this. So the fourth is the known unknowns, the things you do not want people to know about. Okay? They apply too. So I was going to run some of the information, some of this, through the known knowns. So one of the known knowns, of course, is, I would argue, the economic benefits of the EU of enlarging our world when the, if you like, the Commonwealth and our international trade in some ways has been narrowing. And if you look at the latest report by the Bank of England, what they say, they nail, one of the organisations which has nailed its colours to the mast, of saying what the benefits are in its own language, which is a kind of a neoliberal market-based language, but it's actually arguing for a particular positive view of EU membership, which I'm saying converts into, but it doesn't exactly, because of the way it's operating, into benefits for Britain, potentially at the health and social welfare level. But of course, it's not these arguments that apply. Reality is always filtered through a narrative. And as Simon Nixon says in the Wall Street Journal, which is generally a particular perspective on the world, actually, even if the BOE's analysis is right, the issue is the perception of integration. So in a sense, all we're dealing with all the time is perceptions about the EU, perceptions of the benefits or the problems of Brexit. Well, what I'm going to be arguing, and I think others, is that actually there are realities, there are known knowns. One is our continued reliance upon food from Europe. And I imagine that you've discussed this in the morning. That this is a clear one. You know, we'll still be, wherever we are on the planet, we're still located as a small island off the coast of Europe. And the sun doesn't shine that much. We have to import food from our neighbours. We have to have friendly relationships. And in fact, you know, the immigration issue, whether we like it or not, it's the people, the migrants who are mainly picking those fruits and vegetables, which the indigenous products which we're eating. So the argument about migration is not just 25% of foreign nationals who work in the NHS, it's the people who work in our fields, in our shops, in our cafes. So there's a broader issues of integration. And I've said the integration moves in many different directions. So one is food inputs. But I just thought, and it's already been come this afternoon, the impact on farming. Now, I declare a conflict of interest here because I'm someone who is a director of a farm. We won't be less affected, but if you are in Scotland or in Wales or in Northern Ireland, the impact of the removal of the common agricultural policy would have significant effects. And the question here raised in the House of Commons Library report, how the UK government of the day fills the gaps in economic policy left by withdrawal from the EU would have important bearing. Again, you know, people complain about the CAP, but it keeps marginal farms on borderlands in Scotland alive. So, another policy gap. So from the known unknowns, so I'm arguing that the known unknowns predominate. And why? And what will happen? The UK will still be a major trading partner with Europe and have to live by EU rules. Not clear what new model of relationship would be. Norway, Swiss, and so on. And not sure, I'll come on to those points in a second, not sure how the 27 remaining members would react to leaving. And in just the reference should be there, it's the House of Commons report again, that the vast majority of EU regulations identified as most burdensome to business would still remain, even if we are only a member of EFTA. It will be bound by future EU law in these areas, with arguably less influence over their content. So, if we want to trade with Europe, which is our major trading partner, we'll still be cognizant of their rules. We can't just make up our own and presume that they apply. So these are the different models of relationship into the future. Each of them, this is from Gregor Irwin, who is the former chief economist at the Foreign Commonwealth Office, who now works for a fellow called Lord Mandelson, I believe. He runs this outfit called Global Council. But if you look at their report, it's one of the most sophisticated accounts of the unclarity of Brexit and leaving. And the fact that even if we decide to do it, which is the model that will apply to Britain running it? Because each of these is going to play extraordinarily differently from the other in terms of its impact. So I would divert you from the simplicities that I'm offering to the complexities of these styles of report. The other side of it, another unknown, but is likely to be true, is we are leaving a club, if you like, with 27 other members, not particularly on friendly terms. What do you expect they're going to do afterwards? They're going to say, how wonderful you've left. Aren't we? We'll all get on better now that you've left our club. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case. And if I will just direct you to this document, the United Kingdom and the European Union by a German think tank, and they go through all of these things. I just pick out 2 points here, of all the other members and their view about what the UK would be on Brexit. And here's just 2 countries. The Polish one is particularly sobering. While a large tranche of Polish elite is familiar with British motivations and thinking, this familiarity has not bred sympathy so much as contempt. Oh dear. You know, it's not just the way we view the world, it is how the world views us. And the arrogance of the discussion of Brexit, which I find, it's just a world in which everything is operated according to the rules of a former imperial power. But actually, even the partners as we look to the global world, you know, outside of the EU, they are having a view of us now, which is in terms of our membership of the European Union, and not as an independent force outside. What then are the unknowns? What is that by definition? Well, unexpected or unforeseeable conditions. As we move towards exit, if this happens, we'll have greater risks. We don't even know what the consequences are of actually the process itself. And if we think that somehow Brexit, a bit like the Irish question in the 19th century, or the recent issue of the Scottish referendum, go away once this is complete, I think a sober analysis would say we will still be talking in either case about this in 10 years' time. It will be running and running. So back to the question I was asked, what are the specifics of this in terms of health and welfare? In a sense, it takes us back to the state of Britain. It takes us back to austerity, economic policy, health policy, which are largely decided by the political hue of the government in power. And in a sense, irrespective of leaving the EU or not, and the tone of my talk is very much worried about the unthought implications of all of these things, then actually we have to say it is the sense of our society that we have to most care about. And if we get that right, and we work out some partnership arrangement in Europe, actually we alleviate the pressures that Brexit is causing, that of uncertainty, sense of chaos, and actually getting, part of a social movement, I think, which actually addresses health and welfare issues in a much more strategic and frankly caring sense. And I'll stop there. Thank you.